All right. Hello and welcome to our Mount St. Vincent University Fall 2020 Career Week, presented by our Business and Tourism Department here at the Mount. Career Week consists of a series of panels with industry professionals that cover topics such as career paths, how to get a job after graduation, how to get a job after graduation, career advancement, and gives our Mount students an opportunity to learn from industry professionals. My name is Carrie Sherman, and I will be your moderator for this evening's Accounting and Finance panel. I'd like to start this evening's panel by saying a huge thank you to our extraordinary panelists. Thank you so much for taking the time of your day to join us. So today on our panel, we have Mitchell Coady, who's an intermediate accountant at BDO. We have Debbie Bayliss, who's retired from the Royal Bank of Canada, but held previous roles as the manager of finance and our manager of credit. We have Rebecca Kreft, advisor in finance at Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board. We have Tracy Newman, business lead in core implementation at Workers' Compensation Board of Nova Scotia. And last but certainly not least, Ying Wu, chair of education and university liaison committee at CFA Society Atlantic Canada and risk manager at Vestcor Inc. Welcome, everyone. All right, so Rebecca, we'll begin with you. So please take this opportunity to introduce yourself, your position, and tell us a little bit about the company that you work for.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, perfect. So my name's Rebecca Kraft. I'm an advisor in the finance department of the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board. That is our provincial regulator, and specifically I focus on the utility side of things and electricity for my main role.
Wonderful. Mitchell, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, your position in the company that you work for?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Mitchell Coady. I work for BDO Canada, a public accounting firm based out of Dartmouth. I'm an intermediate accountant, and I work in A&A, so audit insurance, and I do mostly audits of small to medium-sized businesses, including non-for-profits.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mitchell. Debbie, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, your position, and the company that you work for?
Certainly. Hello, everyone. I'm Debbie Bayliss, and I'm going to be talking to you today about my experiences as branch manager with RBC. So just to give you a little bit of background, our organization has been around for over 150 years. We're one of the largest banks in Canada, and we employ 87,000 employees and serve over 17 million clients. And my role, my last role with the organization was as branch manager with one of our largest retail branches in Moncton, New Brunswick.
Wonderful. Thank you, Debbie. All right, Tracy, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, your position in the company that you work for?
Hi, everybody. My name's Tracy Newman. I am the manager of business evolution at the Workers' Compensation Board of Nova Scotia. We are an insurance organization that protects employers and workers from workplace injury and across Nova Scotia. We have about 18,000 employers that we cover.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Mitchell, can you talk to us a little bit about what led you to the position that you're in today? Maybe your journey of how you got there, a little bit about your education and job experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I graduated from MSVU back in 2018, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I did the co-op program there, and I was largely into non-public accounting roles. I wasn't sure I wanted to do the public accounting route, so I didn't really start out there. But I quickly realized how valuable the public accounting experience is, and lots of industry employers look for that experience going forward. So I ended up going to a small accounting firm in Amherst for 6 months to do taxes. And after that, I was able to kind of build some connections, and I was able to get hired on to BDO in Dartmouth shortly thereafter. And yeah, that's kind of how I ended up where I am right now.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Ying, how about you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your position and what led you to the position that you're in today?
Hi. So yeah, just a little bit of about my background and my position. So like Carrie introduced earlier, I'm the manager for the risk management team at Vestcor. Vestcor, for those who don't know, we are the pension fund manager for New Brunswick. We are based out of Fredericton. We have about 18 billion Canadian dollars under management, and we manage most of the assets in-house. The risk team that I'm responsible for, we basically look at the risk analysis for all of our strategies for the fund, and also compliance reporting and analysis. So how did I get to this position today? I guess I started back in around the global financial crisis time, around 2008. Before that time, I was working for the government of New Brunswick. So I guess one day I just saw this job posting basically, and I have been very interested in finance because my undergrad was in finance. And then at that time, when I started looking for my first job, I went to the government of New Brunswick side of things as a continuation of my master's degree, which was in economics. So, and then after a couple of years, I realized maybe I'm still more interested in finance. So that's why I applied for the job at Vestcor, or back then it's called New Brunswick Investment Management Corporation. And then I started out as a research analyst at the quantitative investing team. And then eventually we created a risk management team a couple of years ago, and that's where I'm right now.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. All right. Tracy, would you like to talk to us a little bit about the position that you're in today and how you got there? So maybe touch on like your education, your job experience, and any professional connections that helped you along the way.
Sure, thank you. So I graduated from the Mound back in the year 2000, went on to work in a small accounting firm here in Halifax, was awarded my CA, and quickly realized public accounting wasn't for me. I had done co-ops while I was at the Mound and had worked at Workers' Compensation Board at that point. So I reached out to my manager that I had worked for to see if there was any opportunities for me to make a transition. I was lucky enough that there was. So in 2003, I transitioned into the finance department at Workers' Compensation Board as the treasury accountant. I stayed in that role for a very small period of time, then moved into the employer services side of our business in the collections department. Stayed there for a number of years as our organization with a number of changes, participated in some reorganizational projects. At the same time completing my master's degree and trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I was lucky enough to have lots of opportunities afforded to me at the organization, and I've worked anywhere from client services to employer services back into the finance department. In 2017, I was approached to be the business lead on a business transformation project that we were doing, which was revamping our people, process, and technology on how we deliver services to employers and workers across the province. So for the last number of years, I've been implementing that transformation, which was a significant transformation, $25 million, as we reorganized how we do everything that we do and the systems that we do it. That project's just coming to a close, and I am moved into a new role called Manager of Business Evolution to continue that continuous improvement piece of the business. So my connections are, you know, there's connections wherever you go, and you know, it led me back to this organization, which I've been very fortunate to be a part of. In addition, I'm a part-time instructor off and on since the year 2004 at the Mount in the business and tourism faculty. Anne McGilvery, who had been one of my professors, was the chair at the time. And I've maintained a strong contact with Mount St. Vincent ever since my graduation. And that is all through connections.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's always so nice to see Mount grads. So you did talk a little bit about the opportunities that you've had and that you did complete co-ops while here at the Mount. And it is a great opportunity to learn what you love about the position, but it's also a really great opportunity to learn what doesn't work for you. So that was an excellent point. All right, Debbie, would you like to tell us a little bit about what led you to the position that you're in today and a little bit about your background?
Well, certainly. I come from a little bit of a different background, and I did my undergraduate, sorry, not at the Mount, at Mount A. And I started applying. It was interesting because some of my professors, my undergraduate degree is majoring in marketing, and they actually approached me and offered me full scholarship in what was the CMA program at the time, which I thought was strange because I am a marketing, my major is marketing, not accounting. One of the things I quickly learned is it's extremely important to understand the financial perspective of a business. And so I went into the program, and as I started to work for the organization, because I had a background in sales and in a background in finance, it really afforded me some opportunities to actually quickly have exposure. And I ended up being the manager of finance at our customer contact center in Moncton. And that was because I was the only candidate, even though I had only worked for the organization less than a year, was the only candidate who had almost completed her designation. So education is a very beneficial, and this idea of continuous learning really does afford you opportunities. And so that's how I started with the organization. And as I work, there's one of the things RBC is really, really good at is there's lots of opportunities. And because I was on the senior management team within Moncton, I got exposure to a lot of the senior management when it comes to from a national perspective. And that again afforded me other opportunities, whether it was in our customer contact environment or whether it was outside in our retail. So again, I'm a real advocate for continuous learning and the benefits.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Debbie. All right, Rebecca, would you like to tell us a little bit about the position that you're in today and your background?
Yes, I'd love to. So like Debbie, I kind of had a bit of an unconventional lead into my path as well. When I began classes at the Mount, I had recently left a career in construction, working on the project management and coordination side of things. So after years in those type of roles, I decided to go back to school to complete my business degree and pretty quickly found my passion in accounting. I completed my BBA at the Mount and then went on right after that to pursue my CPA designation with EY in Halifax, Ernst & Young. For the 3 years, I worked in the assurance line of business at EY, which is, like Mitchell said, same thing, audit, basically. And most of my time was spent focusing on the power and utilities sector. One of the women that I worked with at EY at the time had sent me through the job posting for the UARB, which is the acronym for it, as her aunt was one of the board members there. And so I applied at the end of last year, 2019, and I started this position in January of this year, 2020. And since the UARB is our provincial regulator for utilities, it was pretty much a natural fit, just given my experience in the regulated entities. That's how I got here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rebecca. All right. Mitchell, we'll start with you for this next question. So many of our students on this panel tonight are business students who may have an interest in accounting or finance. So could you talk a little bit about the rewarding aspects of your career?
Yeah, sure. So I guess for myself specifically, I think with the type of clients that BDO has, they're more small to medium-sized businesses, so they're not these large corporate clients. And one of the biggest things is, I guess, auditors are always seen as the bad guys, like no one really wants them there. But when you're working with small to medium-sized businesses, you work a lot face-to-face with the like the controllers and the bookkeepers and that type of thing. And they honestly really do appreciate you being there, because it helps them make changes and get their processes into in more efficient, and it makes their lives easier going forward. I'm recently working with a client right now in a non-for-profit sector, and she just got hired on as the controller, and the previous one had left unexpectedly. So she kind of got thrown into this role, and she is kind of is struggling. So we came out for the audit this year, and I spent a lot of time working with her, showing her how the processes worked, what we've seen in the past, what could change going forward. And she was very appreciative of the help we were able to provide. And yeah, we kind of made her life a lot easier. So it's nice being able to help your clients as much as possible, I guess.
That's a great answer. I can imagine it's really rewarding helping people grow, and especially in these industries when people are thrown into something so last minute. All right, Debbie, tell us about the most rewarding part of your job.
Certainly. Well, the most rewarding is actually developing people for me and coaching. What that does is, one of the things I love doing is challenging people. Sometimes they don't necessarily appreciate it at the time, but when you challenge yourself and work outside your comfort zone, what's so great is you get to achieve things that you never thought was possible. And as a leader and as a coach, it's very rewarding to have played a small role in seeing someone grow professionally and personally. So for me, that is the best part of my job.
I love that. It's definitely an incredible experience to watch someone grow. Rebecca, tell us, what do you think is the most rewarding aspect of your career?
I would say for myself at this point in my career, I find that the most rewarding aspect is just the growth that I've experienced over the years. The undergraduate degree that I did at the Mount allowed me to grow just the in-depth knowledge of accounting, and then also just enhance my work ethic, business leadership skills. But then as I kind of move forward past that, the position at EY taught me to hone skills such as like attention to detail and analytical thinking. And those kind of rolled into a set of aptitudes that led me to my position now at the board. And now even in, I mean, I've been there for 11 months now, just shy of a year. The growth in regulatory accounting knowledge that I've experienced is quite substantial. And I really enjoy the challenge and the rewards that embracing the change and seeking new opportunities provides. I think this career will always provide you with upwards growth if you seek it, and I've enjoyed that growth for myself personally.
Growth seems to be the main theme amongst all of your answers. Ying, what would you say the most rewarding aspect of your career has been?
Yeah, there's definitely a few very rewarding aspects that I would consider. I think the most important one is that by working at the pension fund, our objective is to meet the future pension liabilities for the pension plans that we manage. So, we know that we are actually making a real impact on the living standard, the lives of the pensioners who are retired right now, and as well as those active members who are working today, who are contributing to their plans, on a monthly or bi-weekly basis. We are also making a real impact for their future retirement lives. So that definitely is a very important factor when I consider, what makes my career rewarding. And myself is also a member of one of the pension plans that we manage. So there's an added bonus on that side of things. And then the other thing I think is the challenges that the job itself brings on. So, essentially we invest in the financial markets, and the markets are always changing, always evolving. There's always new investment strategies that's coming out, new instruments that you need to get familiarized with. The market structure changes all the time as well. And then you're in different economic cycles every year. The monetary or fiscal policy environment is different at different times. So that all requires a lot of learning, reading, and readjusting your knowledge base to, apply those to the real world problems that you're looking at. I've learned over my career here of the last 11 years or so, I've learned so many different things, especially some things that was not even remotely related to what I did at school, especially programming. So I learned VBA, R, MATLAB, Python over the last 11 years or so. So yeah, I think it's definitely a great challenge to find yourself motivated to learn those new things and to be able to keep up with the changing market and requirements of the job. And then also in the last 10 years or so, after the global financial crisis of 2008, risk management became more at the forefront. That has been developing a lot for a lot of investment management companies. So basically, our team here was built from ground up. So there's a lot of different things that I had to learn from building the team up. And then basically, that's very different from, just doing your own job and report to someone, right? So, and then I think also our company is relatively small to some of the bigger peers in Toronto or Montreal or New York. So there's a more flat structure organizationally, I would say. So you always have that more direct influence over the direction of the programs and projects that you're working on, and even the long-term cooperation goals and strategies. So that is definitely very motivating and a rewarding area. And then lastly, of course, essentially you're spending over 8 hours a day with your colleagues. So it's also great to be working with a group of very smart and extremely talented people who are also very highly motivated as well.
Those are some wonderful insights. Thank you so much for sharing, Ying. All right, Tracy, what would you say that the most rewarding aspect of your career has been?
It has to be the project that we just completed. So doing the business transformation that our organization has just undergone is once in a lifetime or once in a career opportunity to make that type of an impact on an organization and on the customers that we serve. But much like Debbie, it's all about the people. So regardless of where you are in the world, in your business piece, being able to deal with people and motivate them and develop them is key to success. And I find that actually probably the most rewarding on a day-to-day basis.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. So we just talked about the rewarding aspects of your career. And it makes accounting and finance sound like there's so many different kind of career paths and so many rewarding aspects. So what are some of the common misconceptions people may have about working in the accounting field? And what do you think that we can do to combat these misconceptions and to communicate more effectively about what this career can really offer to future graduates? Debbie, would you like to talk about this?
Certainly. I kind of laughed when you asked the question because a lot of times people kind of think in silos, and if you're accounting, that means you're not creative. If you're an accountant, you're not a people person. And it's so critical that in order to be successful, there's many different skills that we need. So it's part of my role has always been to, promote the skills that I have, but also to ensure that people understand that there's many opportunities for you and you don't always have to look at the traditional. Having an accounting background is critical to understanding the workings of an organization, and ultimately most of us work for profit organizations, and therefore we have to understand that that is a priority. So having that skill is critical. But I just want to encourage everyone that as you start your career, recognize that there's lots of opportunities out there for you, and it isn't always necessarily you may start in the accounting field and you may blossom somewhere else. So please don't close the doors, but always know that you have a solid background in understanding the workings of an organization and the priorities. Because what I learned very early in my career is if you had a great idea, you had to understand the numbers in order to convince someone to implement it. So you've got a head up, like you've got to step up over a lot of other people that do not understand numbers.
That is great advice, Debbie. Wonderful. All right. Mitchell, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions that people may have about working in the accounting field and how we can combat these misconceptions?
Yeah, sure. So I guess kind of touching on what Debbie said there was this misconception that accountants are not really the most interpersonal or outgoing kind of people, but I guess like that's not true at all. I think if you're going to be successful in any accounting role, having good interpersonal skills and being able to develop these relationships with your clients and other peers is absolutely crucial to being successful in your career. So that's just something I guess maybe way back when that might have been the case, but I think nowadays it's really not the case anymore. And if you want to be obviously, if you're looking to get employed with a company, a big thing is how well, I guess, if you're a new graduate, is your resume. And yes, your resume may look good, but if you're not going to have those interpersonal skills and being able to develop those relationships, you're just not going to be successful. So I think it's very important to note that this misconception that accountants are very, I guess, dull and not really interpersonal is just not true.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Rebecca, are there any misconceptions that you've come across in your career? And can you talk a little bit about what this career can offer future graduates?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of makes me laugh, this question too, because when I went into accounting at the beginning, I feel like everyone said, why why would you want to be an accountant? Like, that's going to be so boring. And I get it. Like, I understand why people might think that, but I think it's just a misconception with the roles that are available to us. So I guess I'd say, I think the biggest misconceptions are that people think the jobs are going to be boring or monotonous, or, you see accountants on TV or something, and yeah, they are pretty boring. But that the roles are limited to like tax accounting or payroll, or if you stay with it long enough, you could be a CFO. But before I got into it, I really didn't understand that there's such a wide and diverse range of roles available to accountants. So, I mean, you can even see with this panel we're in right now, the possibilities of various roles. In my current role, I find the work really engaging and I learn so much with every new thing that I take on. Like I find them each a unique challenge. And so I certainly wouldn't say it's boring. And I think in order to combat the misconceptions, I guess I would advise that, you know, students do their homework in researching the roles that are out there and trying to network with people in roles that you might be interested in. I think that that'd be a good start to kind of seeing what's out there.
That's great advice. All right, Tracy, are there any misconceptions that you've come across during your career, and what kind of careers can this route of accounting and finance offer our future graduates?
Sure. So I think some of the misconceptions out there is that accountants are back office, and that's far from the truth. Accountants have a large voice in organizations around the strategy and the direction of the organization. So thinking that we're, you know, in the back just crunching the numbers on a computer or a calculator is a misconception. You know, in my day-to-day, I do no accounting. So in the organization I'm in, my background from an analytical and strategy perspective that I gained through my education and my experience working with clients has assisted me. But on the day-to-day, I really do very little. I do a lot of process work, efficiency work, and more people leadership.
Oh, that's great. Ying, have you come across any misconceptions during your career?
For sure. I think maybe my experience will be more leaning towards the finance side of things versus accounting. But I believe we have some students here today in the audience who are a finance major, so that would still be very relevant to them. So, I mean, you know, just to touch on the accounting side of things a little bit to start, in our company, it is an investment company, but we also have a fund accounting team. So that team would be responsible for keeping a record of our daily profit and loss, all the trades that are being executed, you know, throughout the day, and then performance and, you know, everything from that perspective as well. So that's definitely a very important team and a very important task to do for the corporation to be effective. And then in terms of finance and investment itself, there's also a lot of misconceptions. I think one of the more common ones is that, you know, when people think about investments, you know, that area, people think about investment banking. Investment banking doesn't represent the whole investment industry at all. There are so many different areas in finance and investments. So the bigger categorization is the sell side versus buy side. Some of you might already know the buy side refers to firms that buy securities essentially. So that would include investment companies like pension fund and endowment fund like ourselves, other hedge fund, mutual fund, and even, you know, some home offices of certain high net worth individuals. They might have their own small boutique investment offices. And then the sell side is those firms who try to sell or issue or trade securities. So that would be mostly investment banks and advisory firms. And then, of course, the roles or potential employment opportunities on both sides are very different. So on the sell side, you have, of course, the investment banking, and then fixed income team, debt, equity, and then the trading teams. And there's also opportunities to be a sell side research analyst that covers certain companies. And then on the buy side, like I mentioned, there's hedge fund, mutual fund, and pension fund endowments. and all sorts of companies like that. And we have different positions within each company as well. For example, for us, we have the front office who are the investment teams, and then the investment teams are further divided into by the asset classes. So equity team, fixed income, and we also have private assets that includes private real estate, infrastructure, private equity, venture capital, and things like that. And then there's the fixed income team, and then within each team, there's different strategies that uses different methodologies as well. And middle office has performance measurement, compliance, risk as well. And then there are other supporting roles in IT, human resources, accounting, and there's just a whole array of different types of things that you could do. So I guess the most important thing is to educate yourself in terms of what is out there, what the opportunities are, and then make connections like other panelists have said, to learn about people who actually work in the industry, their background, and what they currently do. That would be beneficial, I think.
Thank you so much for giving us such a great picture of so many career paths that our students can go down. So as you mentioned, we do have quite a few finance and accounting students on our panel tonight. So I was just wondering, for your organization, does your organization offer summer, part-time, or co-op positions? And are you interested in hiring new graduates? And to build off of that a little bit, how competitive would you say positions in the field of accounting and finance are? Ying, if you just want to continue on, that would be
sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was still on. Okay, so yeah, just to continue on that, we do offer summer, part-time, and also co-op positions. We hire new graduates as well. So the co-op positions are reoccurring every year. So is the summer positions as well. In terms of hiring new graduates, I think that's we have a couple programs that we work together with mostly University of New Brunswick, because the campus is based in Fredericton, so it's easier to I guess we have been working with them for a number of years now. We don't necessarily only hire from UNB, of course. When we post new positions, especially full-time positions, we would be posting on our website and also Career Beacon. So, all the opportunities are available to the public. And then co-op positions, I think, are a little bit different. It all depends on who the manager of the team who's hiring decides to post at which universities. So yeah, we post the positions for co-ops at a few different Atlantic Canada universities. Yeah, so definitely a lot of opportunities for students. And also in terms of how competitive, I'll just talk from my own experience, because I just recently hired an intern on an 8-month basis. So they started in the beginning of the summer. When I posted the position out, I got about 80 applicants. So I would say it's fairly competitive. It's good for us to see that level of interest, but that also means that for the students, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, either to prepare for the resume or interviews.
Wonderful. Thank you for your insights on that. That's really valuable information for our students to know. Tracy, do you want to talk about a little bit about some of the opportunities that may be at your organization for our students and our recent graduates?
Sure. So for students, we do hire summer students every year. We typically hire one accounting or finance type student into the finance department here at WCB. That student typically has an opportunity to continue to come back if they perform well year over year. So those opportunities don't come up a lot in our organization specific to the finance team. But if you're open to working in other areas of our organization, we typically hire between 10 and 15 summer students on an annual basis. We've moved away from the co-op hiring, and I'm not sure why. I'm a very big proponent of co-ops, so I'd have to actually engage with our HR department to figure out the whys of that. With respect to competitive, we definitely hire the best fit for the role. So whether or not that's a new grad or someone that has a little bit of experience, we're looking for the right fit for the job or the role that we're hiring for. It is competitive. We work a lot with different agencies across Nova Scotia to recruit for different positions within the area. But I know, in particular, our finance team, because we don't usually recruit internally too much for a lot of those positions because they're niche positions, that, the competition is pretty heavy out there. So making sure that you have your resume and the cover letter and it's as good a quality as you can, and having kind of a vast experience, whether it's volunteer or actual work experience, will give you a leg up on getting an interview.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that advice, Tracy. Rebecca, does the organization that you work for offer summer, part-time, or co-op positions?
So this is going to be not the best answer for students, but I'd say the UARB is quite competitive for accounting and finance positions. It's provincial government, and these are advisory roles that are requiring people to provide expert advice on the subject matter. In the past, they have hired co-op positions for clerk roles, not the advisory, but they were successful in that regard. In the question of hiring new graduates for advisory positions, the board definitely is open to doing it, but only if candidates have some practical experience that they can apply to the position. So the board has just found that without either past related experience to the subject matter or related experience that you have following graduation, candidates wouldn't feel adequately prepared for the role. So like in my experience, I had my time at EY where I worked on a regulated entity that I could use to kind of apply to it. But if anyone listening has prior experience that they thought would be helpful for the role, I would encourage them to apply to any role that we have available, or wait a few years for the relevant work experience and then apply. I obviously got in with close to 3 years experience at EY, so I'm kind of a recent graduate, but yeah, I think it takes a little bit more experience for them to want to hire someone straight out of school.
Well, that's great to know. I'm sure students are thrilled to have that information. So Rebecca, even though you can't talk about maybe students coming in on co-op terms, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe the attributes that your organization will look for in hiring someone?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I guess the work experience, I know that they are looking for people with technical writing skills, good communication skills. You obviously learn a lot on the job, but I got some training for more almost like legal writing techniques, because what we advise on goes out to the public, and so it does have to be quite detailed, and so many people look over my work just to fix certain words. So I mean, like, that definitely would be an attribute that would be helpful. And I think just the wanting you to learn and to embrace new experiences, and be open to learning new things. Everything that I do on a daily basis, I shouldn't say everything, but a lot of things that I do I'm learning as I go, you know, and that's something that you have to be open to.
It's wonderful. Thank you for that. All right, let's go to Mitchell. So Mitchell, you were a student at the Mount who also did co-op. So does your organization offer any type of co-op, summer, or part-time positions or hire recent graduates? Oh, I think you're just on mute.
All right, there we go. I think that works. Yeah, so we don't hire summer students, but we definitely have co-op positions, and we do hire new grads. So our office usually hires 2 co-ops for tax season, running about January to May, I think, something like that. And then we do hire new grads. Oftentimes the co-ops, if they've done well, will come in as new hires. So this year, I think we hired 5 new junior staff. 2 of them had previously done co-op terms here, and then 3 were just new grads that hadn't previously done co-op. So there's definitely a good mix. We do, if you are, and I think with any public accounting, they usually offer co-op roles as well as new hires. They kind of need that staff in there. But I think it is a very competitive field, especially in public accounting. I'm not sure, I don't have as much experience in other areas, but I know, for example, when I went to a meet and greet a couple of years ago for EY, and I think there must have been at least 100 students there, and I think they were hiring 2 positions. So and that's only the people who showed up. So it's definitely a very competitive industry. Kind of beef up your resume is definitely very important. Volunteer work, experience, being on committees, extracurricular activities, like anything to make your resume stand out is going to be beneficial. As well as attending as many of these. I guess it's not so easy to attend these networking and get events and getting your face out there like it used to be. But definitely try and, get to as many of these networking opportunities as possible to get your name out there. And public accounting firms usually hire a year in advance, so you kind of want to be prepared for the upcoming positions that are available.
That is great advice. Thank you, Mitchell. You're definitely right. Events like this work wonders in connecting students with industry professionals. So thank you again for being here this evening. All right. Debbie, would you like to talk to us a little bit about, I know that you're retired now, but maybe the organization had offered summer positions, part-time co-ops?
Sure, no problem at all. The biggest challenge that RBC has is any of our training programs that we have in place. The minimum is 17 weeks training, and that's on a full-time basis. And a lot of the other programs run about 24 to 26 weeks. So unfortunately, it doesn't work very well from a part-time basis, although periodically we've made special arrangements where we've had someone who has returned to our organization, so done the training one summer and then has returned and worked part-time throughout their university. So there are some programs. You should always look on rbc.com as far as for career opportunities. As far as competitiveness, there are a lot of opportunities available, but there are a lot of people looking for opportunities. So the key is to figure out how you can differentiate yourself. As someone who is, close to graduating or going to graduate this year, and we've talked about work experience, and sometimes that's difficult to get because you're just starting. One of the things that I always look when I interview individuals is how much do they know about our organization? And I'm always impressed and give time and consideration to people who have researched the company. They have a very strong understanding of what the company's like, what the mission is, what the vision is, what the values are. They prepared. You can spend. I have had many many people from university who have come in and just wanted to have a better understanding of RBC, of the roles that were available. You know, you can try and do those connections well ahead of time, even as you start early in your educational career, so that you're building this network and that you can really understand what these positions are, and you can see yourself in that position, because you have to sell yourself and sell the skills that you have, because nobody else is going to put you in that place except you. So that's what's going to differentiate you in an interview. And you've got to network, you've got to understand the business, get your foot in the door before you get into that interview. So that would be my piece of advice. And be persistent. Lots of times I'd have someone who come in and say, you know, I'm really interested in this organization. I put the resume off to the side and I think, wonder how interested they are. Am I going to see them in 3 months from now? 3 months later, never heard from them, no email, nothing. So they either got another job or they really weren't that interested. So persistence is also important. Hopefully that helps.
That is great advice, Debbie. Thank you. So Debbie, you have had a successful career. So can you talk to us a little bit about what has helped you get to where you are at in your career? Any like influential, effective, in the forefront? Like, what advice do you have for others who want to go in a similar career path as you have?
Certainly. Well, as I said, one of the things I'm a real adamant is around continuous education. And I think that's one of the things that's really helped me with any of the success that I've experienced. Also, what I'm and hopefully a lot of you have taken strategy courses. And one of the biggest things is love strategy formulation, love it, you know, from an execution perspective. And most of us are involved in roles that's at some point we will do that. And one of the things is, as an employee, if you start to, no matter what role you're doing, understand the company's strategy, understand the role, how are you contributing to that? What happens is you start listening to what people are saying, senior people are saying. And if they say it twice, you know that they've already decided this, it's already in the works. So you start looking at what that future looks like. When you start asking poignant questions, people start noticing. And as a result, you start getting into room with people that you never expected to. That's been critical to my success, and just capitalizing on those opportunities. You know, those lovely presentations you get to do at university, and I teach in the CPA program, and they do a lot with presentations. I'm so thankful I got to a point that I was so comfortable, because I had 2 days notice to put together a presentation for our president and CEO for RBC. If I hadn't had that experience in the past, there's no way my manager would have put me in charge of that in that room with the CEO. So again, everything that you do is transferable. Capitalize it, build on those communication skills, ask poignant questions, and that will, you'll go far. And no matter what you're doing, even if you don't like your job, do it well. That's important.
That is excellent advice. I can attest to that. Asking questions can open so many doors that you wouldn't even believe. All right. Tracy, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what has helped you get to where you are at in your career, and what advice you would have for others who want to set off in a similar direction?
Sure. So a couple of things that I think have been paramount to my success is loving what I do. So I love going to work every day. So for me, making sure that I'm doing something that I really enjoy is essential, because that way you show up, and you show up in a way that's meaningful, and it does help you get noticed. And like Debbie said, even if you don't love what you're doing today, try to do it well, and then try to figure out a way to get out of what you're doing and get to something that you really are passionate and enjoy doing. The second piece that I would really recommend is finding a mentor. I had the privilege of working with someone in my organization that mentored me. And that mentor allowed me to get into rooms and have challenges that I wouldn't have had without finding them. It was a safe space to actually, bounce ideas off of, say, I'm not understanding what's happening here. Can you help me understand? And providing that insight to pieces of what was happening in the organization that I just didn't have the experience or exposure to figure out without them. So finding a mentor, I think it's something that everybody should look for an opportunity to do, and making sure that when you do find the mentor, that it's a right fit. It's not for everybody. So being able to click with someone and having them agree and put your interests almost before theirs is not something that's easy to find, but can take you great places.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tracy. Rebecca, what has helped you get to the point where you're at in your career? Did you have any key influences?
In terms of answering this question, I wish I could say that I always had a clear view of my career trajectory, but I really just haven't had the vision that some people have of their dream job or however they see their future. Like I said, I took a bit of an unconventional path where I am now, but I do believe when looking back at it, the detours that I took really were what gave me the strengths that I can use to apply in my surrounding career. So as advice to others, I'd encourage you to be patient with your career choices and persevere in whatever challenge you're currently facing. Like Debbie and Tracy both said, even if you don't like it, hard work and engagement in your work will always pay off. And sometimes you just need a foot in the door, somewhere to start your career, to know where you want to go, or even worst case, to know where you don't want to go. In terms of influences, while I was going to the Mount, I was working waitressing, and I spoke to a lot of people while I waitress because I just like speaking to people. And I ended up talking to a lot of different people about their careers because I was just curious during that time in my life. And there were a lot of people with their CA or CPA designation, and it was while I was going to business school. And so I definitely feel like that kind of influenced me, just seeing that, they enjoyed their jobs and the wide range of jobs that they had, opened my eyes to the fact that there were more roles available than I originally thought accounting contained, I guess you could say.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, I feel like that is a common theme amongst many students. We're not necessarily sure where we're going to end up or what we want to do in the future, but that's always an incredible opportunity to learn and grow and try something new. So thank you so much for that. All right, Ying, would you like to talk a little bit about what has helped you get to where you're at in your career and some advice that you may have for others who want to set off in a similar direction?
For sure. So I think, the bottom line that you need to have is the work ethic, right? To work hard, have that willingness to learn new things at your job. So, that's just the basic requirement to succeed in anything, really. And then I think, whether you're a new employee or have been with an organization for a while, being proactive in your job is very important to get noticed. That could be thinking about ways to improve current processes of doing things, or doing things more efficiently, doing things better, adopting a new piece of, let's say, software, or it could be anything, in terms of trying to find a way to do your job better, basically. I mean, sometimes you would propose these ideas, and I mean, sometimes it's actually, most times it might just go nowhere, but especially if it is still in the early stage of your career. But I think it shows that you care about the bigger picture, you care about the overall goals of the corporation, and especially that you care about making an impact where you work. So that shows that you have the mindset of a leader, even if you might not be ready for a leadership position today. You could be considered as a potential sometime in the future. And then the last piece, my last piece of, I guess, what helped me, it might sound a little bit wishy-washy, but it is what I do believe in, is that I think you need to believe in yourself, in what you can achieve if you put your mind to it. So like from my personal experience, I came to Canada 15 years ago as an international student. I believe there are many other international students in the audience as well. So from that perspective, now I think I can happily say that I have a pretty successful career. And I mean, I definitely have been very lucky along the way and have met many great people who have mentored me along my career as well. So that kind of echo Tracy's advice earlier in terms of finding a mentor or mentors. But, having said that, I think having the right attitude and believe in what you can achieve, if you put your mindset to it, is the fundamental important thing to be successful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Ying. As you mentioned, we do have many international students in our business and tourism department, so I'm sure that they love hearing about your experience, and thank you for bringing that insight. All right, Mitchell, let's talk about what has helped you get to where you are and any advice that you would have for others who want to set off in a similar direction.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I'm still pretty early on in my career. I've been with BDO a little over 2 years, I think. I just found out they're gonna give me the senior position, so that's pretty exciting. But I guess the biggest thing that I've noticed that helped me is I did have a really good manager who has helped me. So like finding that role model, she has been a big influence in helping me grow in my career. And the biggest thing I found that they've even said to me is that no matter what task you're in or what task you're given, always bring a positive attitude. It's not always going to be something you enjoy doing, but make sure you always go into it and give it your best effort, and always go into it with a positive attitude, and really take the initiative instead of sitting back and kind of waiting for. I know a big thing that they always say in my role is to really own your files. So always step up and take the initiative, and don't wait for things to come for you. Really reach out and kind of push your managers and really push things forward instead of waiting for it to come back on you, I guess. And then I guess a big thing to remember is that you're not always going to have the best role. So I guess you're not always going to like every job you do, but make sure if you're in a position to give it your best effort, I guess. I don't know if I should probably say this, but I don't think public accounting is the where I'm going to stay. Like Tracy, I don't think it's for me, but I'm just trying to make sure that whatever I do while I'm here is the best effort I can. And, you're going to have to, it takes a while to get where you want to be. So, even if you're in a role, it could be a stepping stone, but just make sure you always go into it with a positive attitude.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations on the promotion. That's exciting. think we'll chat a little bit more with you, Mitchell, if you don't mind. If there's one piece of advice that you would give our students who are thinking about pursuing a career in accounting or finance, what would it be, and what attributes would you say are crucial for students who are looking to enter the field?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I would say the biggest piece of advice I can give is really grow your network. I mean, I bet you probably hear this all the time, but like my position with BDO, it wasn't through the regular hiring process. It was through my professional connections that I built over the years that allowed me to get to the interview. So I mean, I guess people will probably tell you this all the time, but the biggest thing is to really develop your network, because oftentimes positions will come from your connections and not so much through the regular hiring process. And the biggest attribute, I guess, I want to push home is, you know, really being able to develop your interpersonal skills. So getting out there and going to these network events are going to help immensely. I know a big thing that we look for when we're hiring is not always how good you are, I guess, on paper and how good your resume is, but also how well you're going to fit with the other people in the firm. So a big thing is always being able to, you know, come in with an open mind and be able to develop, you know, long-lasting positive relationships.
That's great advice. Thank you, Mitchell. It's always lovely to hear from a recent grad. Rebecca, I know we talked a little bit about the attributes that your organization would look for. So maybe you'd want to touch on like the one piece of advice that you would give our future graduates.
Sure. So I assume this is probably going to sound like a broken record by the time we get to the end of this question, just because I would speak to the same thing as Mitchell. I'd say my personal experience networking has been very beneficial in making connections with people in industry. I know it seems scary and like you don't want to do it. And, you know, I'm a social person, and a lot of the times I didn't want to do it either. But, you know, it helps. And it's almost necessary. You know, there were quite a few networking events in the past when I was coming out of school. Like Mitchell said, you know, I went to that. He might have been a year after me, but I went to that kind of open call for students applying to EY. And like, there was 100 people back when I did. I would just like to give an update that, you know, when I was with EY last year, they said that the turnout was like a tenth of what it was, meaning like, and I really think that they said it was about 10 people. So I think it's gotten less competitive over the years, just in the switch from public accounting, you know, how you kind of had to do your designation. You didn't have to, but a lot of the time people felt like they had to do their designation in public accounting. Now you have, you know, a lot more options. So I would say COVID's probably interrupted quite a few of the networking events, but you can always reach out to people that you see in interesting roles in accounting and finance industry. For myself, short information interviews were also helpful. I found that people are typically happy to talk about themselves at any given time, and their career paths. This would entail like either reaching out to people you know through email, or if you haven't met someone but you can connect with them on LinkedIn, just send through an initial message of interest in their role and how they got there, and then maybe you can set up a meeting. Like it could be as short as 15 minutes of their time, or up to an hour if they're engaged and happy to discuss. I mean, that works well virtually too. And like, I get it, it does seem scary, but at the same time, most of the time people are happy to do that, and you could make some really, really good connections that way. Or if like, you know, your friend has a cousin who works in something, like hook up with them and just have a conversation and start talking to people in industry, because it'll go a long way. Like, especially in Halifax. Halifax is a small city. Like, it doesn't seem small until you start networking, but like you will start to make good connections through that.
That is great advice. Thank you so much. Yeah, networking is definitely a huge aspect of it. And that's one of my personal favorite parts of the business and tourism department here at the Mount, is that there's so many opportunities, especially during career week and like our learners and leaders conference. There's so many opportunities for our students to connect and network with industry professionals. All right. Ying, would you like to talk a little bit about the one piece of advice that you would give future graduates?
Yeah, for sure. Just kind of follow on the building network piece. I mean, another way of, I guess, building network is, myself teach at UNB in the Master of Quantitative Investing program. A few of my colleagues also teach there as well. We ended up hiring a few students out of that program, even though we posted the job publicly, and we received, many other applicants as well. But these students we know very well. We've seen them working on projects and how they work with others. So, they definitely showed their initiatives and how they were very capable and, of course, smart and motivated as well. So I guess if you do come across a class that is taught by someone who works in the industry, definitely try to leave a good impression there in different ways, asking questions, do an excellent job in your projects or something like that. So yeah, and then I think another piece of advice I have would be, when you apply for a position, you don't have to have 100% of all the required qualifications to thinking about applying. So, sometimes you fit most of the majority of the requirements, and that's probably enough. It just depends on how the available candidates are, and many they required 1 to 2 years of related investment experience. I didn't have that at the time. They required knowledge of programming language. Didn't know anything about programming, but I definitely told them that I'm willing to learn and showed them that I'm capable of learning. So that's just another piece of advice there. And then also, I think if you know what you wanted to do, what kind of future career path you want to lead, you can go on LinkedIn to see other people who work in that similar position already and see what kind of qualifications they have and the experience that they have from their pages, if you can. And also to look at the job descriptions of your future dream job as a long-term goal, and looking at what they require from that description, and work your way towards there, even if it might take years.
That is great advice. Definitely connecting with your professors. It can open so many doors for our students. So thank you so much for that. All right, Tracy, if you had to give one piece of advice to future graduates, what would it be?
I think that the piece of advice I would offer is to, and someone mentioned it earlier, is patience. You're not going to get to your dream job next year. It's going to take stepping stones to get you there. And it can be frustrating because you think that you've just put all of this time into your university education and that you're ready to go. But when you get into the workforce and you start gaining experience and gaining how to work in that environment, doors will open. And so patience and putting yourself out there will help you achieve what your ultimate goal is.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. All right. And last but certainly not least, Debbie, if you had to give our students one piece of advice, what would it be?
Sure. And it really builds on, there's been so much great information and best practices that have been shared around networking. One of the things is a lot of the times when you come out of university, just like myself, you're looking at entry level positions. And know that your ideal and your inspirational, career will happen. But think of it as a marathon and not as a sprint. So it takes time. And as you are on that road and on that journey, you're learning valuable information, transferable skills that will help you be competitive. Don't look at others and see how fast they're moving versus how fast you're moving. Think of it as a marathon, because in the end, the more transferable skills and the stronger you are, the more competitive you ultimately will be for that dream job one day.
That is excellent advice. Thank you so much, Debbie. All right, well, this concludes our Fall 2020 Accounting and Finance Career Week panel. I would just like to say a huge thank you to our panelists. I have learned amounts, so thank you so much for joining us. It's been lovely having you all here, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Yes, good luck.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining and doing this for us.
You are very welcome, Rhonda. Bye.
Now to get back to work tonight.
Yeah, exactly. See?
Oh, my goodness. Never ends.